Happy Friday 10/10. Happy 10 of 10 day. You might be a 10 yourself. Today we're actually talking about Deuteronomy chapter 20. Kind of changing topics from chapter 19. They're talking about war. So, when you go out to war against your enemies and see horses and chariots and army larger than your own, you shall not be afraid of them, for Yahweh your God is with you, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And when you draw near to the battle, the priest shall come forward and speak to the people and say to them, Hear, O Israel, today you are drawing near for the battle against your enemies. Let not your heart faint. Do not fear or panic or be in dread of them. For Yahweh your God is he who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to give you the victory. So, I don't think these first few verses are necessarily, these could be talking about any battle at all. It's talking about any army that's bigger than your own. They're going to be attacking people as they go into the promised land, because this is written in Deuteronomy before they take the promised land. It could be taking the promised land or it could be after. These verses kind of go with either one. So verses 5 through 7 to me are a little different. I believe these are talking about future conquests. Once you settle the promised land and you have started doing these things, then these would take effect. So it's kind of after you've conquered the promised land. Verse 5, Then officers shall speak to the people, saying, Is there any man who has built a new house and has not dedicated it? Go back, lest he die in battle, and another man dedicate his house. Is there any man who has planted a vineyard who has not enjoyed his fruit? Let him go back to his house, lest he die in battle, and another man enjoy his fruit. That's not a euphemism like Song of Solomon, it's an actual vineyard. But it does go on. Is there any man who has betrothed the wife and has not taken her? Let him go back to his house, lest he die in battle, and another man take her. So, these verses, I think, generally speak beyond conquering the promised land, when they would have actually built houses and planted vineyards. Because the only people that would have done that so far are on the east side of the Jordan. The rest of these people don't have houses or vineyards. Now, I think they kept giving and taking in marriage. However, I thought that the verse about once you get married, then you can have an exclusion for a year that you don't have to fight. Apparently that's in Deuteronomy chapter 24, which is a few ahead. I thought it was also either in Exodus, Leviticus. But I do think it's cool that God is making a few statements here. A, not everybody's needed. Why? Because God's fighting your battle. The second part is God wants to enjoy the blessings he's given you. A house, a vineyard, a wife. The house could be both for the man who is building a house and the man betrothed. So, Jewish wedding custom, if you didn't know, they talk about you find a woman, your dad is negotiate, and you have the dowry. You pay that, and then you're betrothed. You're married at that point, but it's kind of like engagement today. And then you go back and you're adding on. You're building a house on your father's house for you and your bride. And that house isn't done until your dad says it's good. So maybe you're a really skilled, good builder and it's a month. Or maybe you're not so good and it's 6 months or a year. That whole time you are technically married, but you haven't consummated yet. That happens once your house is done, then your dad's like, okay, go get the girl. And you can see now why, when Jesus was talking in the Last Supper, I'm going to my Father's house to build a house for you. It has many rooms. No one knows when I'm coming back except the Father. Why? Because the Father's in charge of that construction. Now, I don't think we need to take that part literally necessarily, but Jesus was proposing the way that the Jewish people proposed back in this day. And, you've done this and God wants you to celebrate the blessings he's given you. I think that's a sign of God's goodness. The next one is not so good. And the officers shall speak further to the people and say, Is there any man who is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go back to his house, lest he make the heart of his fellows melt like his own. And when the officers have finished speaking to the people, then commanders shall be appointed at the head of the people. This one's different. It's not about, hey, go enjoy your blessings. It's about, you are going to screw up everything for everyone else. Because you're not trusting God, because you don't have faith that God is going to do what he said he was going to do. Fear is contagious in battle. That is one thing I know. You get one person that's scared to move, if you've watched any war movie, you know that guy that's scared, and when he starts running, a lot of them people gonna start running. So the movie that comes to mind the most is The Patriot with Mel Gibson. The militias, they're not as trained, they're not as disciplined, and when that militia starts to break, that hurts everyone around them, the regulars around them, the other militia members. The fear is contagious, and it destroys entire armies and entire battle plans. So God wants us to be strong and courageous, as he says in the beginning of Joshua. But if someone's a coward, you probably don't want them doing that. And that probably goes to different areas of life as well. So I think these verses coming up, um, 10 through 15, they are generally the ones um, for ahead of the promised land. It could be for both, but this is kind of what I think about that. When you draw near to a city to fight against it, offer terms of peace to it. And if it responds to you peaceably and opens to you, then all the people who are found in it shall be doing forced labor for you, and they'll serve you. If it makes no peace with you, but makes war against you, then you shall besiege it. When Yahweh your God gives it into your hand, you shall put all of its males to the sword, the women, the little ones, the livestock, and everyone else in the city. Its spoil is your plunder. You shall enjoy the spoils of your enemies, which Yahweh your God has given you. Thus you shall do to the cities very far from you, which are not cities of the nations here. So 16 through 18 are talking about the promised land cities that they're about to take. Now these 10 through 15, that's talking about once you've conquered the promised land and you're settled, and God said he'd expanded a lot more, the 3 extra cities of refuge and whatnot. That's what 10 through 15 are for. But 16 through 18, the cities of the peoples that Yahweh your God is giving you for an inheritance, the promised land, you shall save alive nothing that breathes, but you shall devote them to complete destruction, Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites, as Yahweh your God commanded, that they may not teach you according to their abominable practices that they have done for their gods. So you shall not sin against Yahweh your God. So that's the cities that they're about to be taking in the promised land. You weren't supposed to take anybody alive. It sounds terrible. It sounds brutal. Just like a lot of the things that we've talked about, this is about maintaining purity. 19 through 20, the last 2 verses, make a lot of sense. They're just pretty much common sense. When you besiege a city for a long time, making war against it in order to take it, you shall not destroy its trees by wielding an axe against them. You may eat from them, but you shall not cut them down. Are the trees in the field human that they should be besieged by you? Only the trees that you know are not trees for food you may destroy and cut down, that you may build siege works against the city that makes war with you until it falls. So he's saying, hey, don't cut down food trees. This is how God is going to provide for you. He's going to have all these food trees that you can eat from. Cut down the trees that aren't good for food. That's just common sense. And there's an example. I can't remember the name of the town. I don't know if it's really worth looking up right now, but they offered peace to a city in the land that they were supposed to take. And I think the Gibeonites maybe. AI, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They didn't destroy everything. There was a guy that took stuff, and that sin hurt them. So Jericho fell, AI, they took that. It might be the Gibeonites where they said, oh, we want to have peace with you. If you don't read this with any kind of understanding of, well, maybe this is for a different time period, well, yeah, just offer them peace. But the whole point was God is removing these people who have been doing abominable things like sacrificing people, sacrificing their babies, having orgies to try to get false gods to bless them. The point of removing them was for the land to be pure, and then for a people who followed God, who should have been pure, to take that over. I don't think that these apply today because they're A, specifically for Israel, B, for that time. we're not supposed to wipe everyone out. I don't see that from the text. But if you wanted to know a little bit more about how God wanted them to fight wars in the Promised Land, chapter 20 was a good one. So next up will be chapter 21, and I hope you guys have a good weekend. Thanks.